think the idea of like just disconnecting is really inviting, and I really want to do this. But the biggest issue for me is that I don't drive. That's a lot of money. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Abby Chow, and today I'm gonna be talking about some alternative housing solutions that I've been thinking about for quite a while now. And I think in this day and age, I guess we're getting a bit more experimental with how we live. So I thought that it would be kind of fun to go over a few of the ideas. Before we start that, do subscribe to this channel if you do want more videos on housing and financial independence and alternative ways of living, I guess. In this new age that we live in, there are so many options, but I think it's important to know what those options are so you can make the best decision for yourself. So I'm gonna go over a few of them today. Obviously, we know about traditional buying a property. You buy a house, you live in it, you sell your house, you move on, you buy a bigger house. So the first thing I want to talk about is buying land as opposed to buying homes. So this is something I thought about, just buying a piece of land and building your home on top of it. In the UK is quite complex. From what I've gathered from reading, I've found that it looks like it's quite difficult to get the permissions for the planning permissions to actually build the house. And that's why a lot of people don't buy land, because it's cheaper, maybe cheaper or less work to just buy somewhere that's ready built. And there isn't a whole lot of land here, especially in the metropolitan cities. So like London is pretty overpopulated, as we all know, like most major cities and capital cities are. So buying land in London is virtually impossible, because obviously the land is owned by whoever owns it, and you have to go through the boroughs and the councils to actually own land in the Greater London area. It looks really complex, but apparently you can band together with people in your borough if there is enough, like the borough has to take note if there is enough demand for having land, that they kind of have to give land to those people if they band together and decide that they all want to maybe build a complex. Maybe it's like a street of complexes that is owned by these people, all the people who decided to come together to do it. It's complex, it's weird, but yeah, buying land. So my idea was, it kind of merges into like all the other things I'm going to talk about, but like buying a piece of land and building my home on top of it, like my own home that I build myself, not something fancy, just like kind of like a tiny home. I've always had a dream of tiny homes, and just building like a little tiny house on a piece of land in the UK somewhere, or in the Greater London area a bit further out. So buying land and building on land is the first one that I've looked into, and I don't know, it seems a bit difficult to do here. I don't think it's as easy as it is like in the States or in Canada, in other parts of the world where people build houses often. Here it seems very different. So I don't know. That leads me into tiny homes. Tiny homes also are not as big here as they are in the States, New Zealand, Australia, I guess places that have lots of land and lots of unused land. But yes, tiny homes is the second alternative home idea that I have looked into. It's on my life goals list to actually buy a tiny home, or to build a tiny home. Actually, to build a tiny home. Like, I want my own little tiny home, and I've thought about doing this. Like, if I buy a house and I own like the land, I've thought about maybe building one in the garden. That would be amazing. That is my dream. Tiny homes. Tiny homes are really cool. They're literally just smaller, miniature-sized homes that are usually kind of loft style, or they're just one floor, and you have, it's almost like a caravan if it was a house. It's a house on wheels usually, but you can build them not on wheels, but people usually build them on wheels so they can move them around and you can live like all over the country. Here, I'm not sure it makes that much sense, but I can see how that would make sense like in other parts of the world, where you have places where you can actually pitch up your tiny home. So that is one thing I have considered. I love the idea of having a tiny home. I don't think I can live in one forever, but I love the idea of having it as a project to build. So maybe in the future, tiny homes. I'm hoping they become more popular here so it's easier. The cost of building a tiny home, that's another thing I didn't speak about, the cost of owning and building land in the UK. The cost of buying land doesn't seem a crazy amount, and the cost of building homes also is reasonable, but the issue is obviously funding, like having the money to build your home, all the things that you have to put in, the thought you have to put into building your home. It's a lot. With tiny homes, they're actually reasonably affordable. If you build it yourself, there's people who've done it in under 10K. All over the world you can find ideas. There's a YouTube channel called Big Living in a Tiny House. Is that what it's called? Something like that. But it's by a guy who is from New Zealand, and he goes around like looking at tiny homes all over the world. It's an amazing channel. If you want to get an idea of how much they cost, that's roughly, I'd say they can go from anywhere to from 5,000 on a budget, like £5,000, all the way up to like 100K. The bougiest of tiny houses. I've seen 100K tiny houses and they are absolutely beautiful and stunning, but that's a lot of money. I mean, it's still cheaper than buying a house, right? The next alternative home style on my list is kit and modular homes. In the US, this is a thing that I think a YouTuber, it's either Monica or Shelby Church, I can't remember which one it was who did it, but she looked at prefab housing. I think it was Shelby. She looked at prefabricated houses, and they're basically houses that are built in factories and then they're shipped to your location of choice of where, like your land, where you have bought your land. They're shipped there, and then they build that ready-made home there on like a foundation. Like they build a foundation and they basically put your house on top of the foundation, and that's your house. But it's all built, like all the main structure of the house is built off-site in a factory. So here I tried to find, I looked up prefab, didn't really exist. Prefabrication is not really a word here, but then I found modular and kit homes, which is essentially the same thing. A house that is built off-site and then brought to your land and built there. So those looked really interesting. Number one, they were actually quite expensive. So I think modular houses and kit homes might be slightly different, but essentially the idea is the same, that you're buying a package of a home made. In some cases, they will build your house like how you normally would get a house built on the land from scratch. But in most cases, the cases I'm talking about, like modular homes, it's built off-site and brought to you. So, and they're quite expensive. Honestly, I was looking at some online, and here in the UK, they're going anywhere from like 200K to like 350, which is quite a bit considering considering buying a home is in other parts of England is quite a similar price. But you do get to customize it, you do get to make it your own, and they actually really look cool. So I get the idea behind it. I don't know if personally I would do it, but looking at it, it's definitely something to consider if I buy land and want to build on it later. So yeah, kit and modular homes. If you want a pre-packaged home that has like, you can pick out all the like specs you want for it, and you can get it exactly how you want it. If there's a very specific style you're looking for, then that might be the one for you. And the next one, which is the most, not the most exciting, but for me it's the most, second joint most exciting one for me, is cabins. I keep seeing all these videos of cabins in the woods, and not the horror film, the actual like cabins in the woods. Like, I love nature, I love the woods, I love trees, and the idea, like, it's been my dream my whole life. Okay, since I was like, I don't know, 16 years old, it's been my dream to like build a writing cottage aside from my, like, next to my home that I actually live in. And I have been dreaming now about having a cabin as well. So like living in a cabin. I don't know why this is so popular lately. I can see why, like the idea of just being kind of slightly off the grid, and not, you don't necessarily have to be off the grid. Like you could still have obviously internet and wiring and electricity and all that, but like just being away from the world and in your own kind of bubble of serenity, I think is very appealing in today's world where we're so connected, we're so online, we're so just always doing, always talking, always just interacting constantly. Like life has become a slew of interactions. I think the idea of like just disconnecting is really inviting. So cabins, I've seen, they're not really that popular here because we don't really have forestry like that out here. We do, but I don't know if you can actually live in them. I guess places with more nature. This idea I think would be really cool for like Canada. So Canada has lots of greenery, lots of forestry. It's easy to, you can live in Vancouver and still be in the forest. That's how naturey Canada is. So I think that this could be a really cool idea if we do move back to Canada at some point. I'd love to like just build a cabin, live in a cabin, and like, or refurbish a cabin. I've seen so many videos of this also in places in Europe, not just like North America. Just living in like cabins and cottages. The dream. And it's quite affordable if you don't do it here. If you don't do it somewhere like, obviously metro, somewhere that is really expensive, like London, well, you can't really do it in London, but you know, if you move to somewhere that is a bit cheaper, and if you're willing to put in the work to refurbish something that's already built and, you know, fix up a place, this could be a great idea. So it's definitely in my top 3 of wanting like home ideas for the future. And the final and last one, which is one that I really love, is van life. I'm sure you've heard of van life, hashtag van life. It's been my dream to live in a van and to convert a van into an actual living space. And I really, really want to do this. But the biggest issue for me is that I don't drive. I don't know how to drive, and I'm evidently not gonna learn how to drive anytime soon because of everything happening. So I can't really do that, but I do one day want to get a van and refurbish it and just drive along the coast somewhere. I don't even care where really. It would be nice to like do America, but getting the van there would be a bit difficult. So I'm thinking that's if we're like in Canada, that would work. I could like drive down the coast, that'd be super sick. So yeah, van life is quite popular. It's not, I don't think it's as popular as it used to be about a couple of years ago, but it is still out there. And I've seen like variations to it. It's basically just renovating a van and living in it, and that being your main home. And variations I've seen is like Airstreams, so refurbished Airstreams. I know Hopscotch the Globe have a whole like video series on renovating their Airstream. Also Monica Church, I'm pretty sure it's Monica. Yes, it's Monica. Monica Church is refurbishing an Airstream as well. They're just really cool. It's like alternative living, but being able to be on the road. I've also seen this done with cars. My friend Charlie from Charlie Chair, she currently lives in her Mini, I think she has a Mini Cooper, she has a Mini, and she lives inside that quite full term right now. So she has been traveling along the coast. She went down south, I don't know, but that looks really cool too. So I've seen super cool variations of van life and just living out of a mobile home, but smaller than your traditional RV, and usually just not your traditional RV. So I think that's really cool and I really want to try it. It's also, I guess, quite affordable. Like, I assume the cost of renovations you could do for like, I'm rolling at 10K. Everything feels like 10K. I think that's the appeal, like having savings and being like, should I put it into buying a home with a mortgage, or should I just use all that money and like, should we just like build something really cool, really unique and one of a kind? And that's definitely the struggle. And I think with a lot of people, it is becoming more of a struggle, but I'm trying to find a way to live more sustainably. I'm trying to find a way to live more creatively. And I feel like it just suits my creative nature. But let me know if you have any alternative housing ideas. Which one would you try? Have you tried any of these? I would love to know. I really would, because I really want like more ideas, and it'd be nice to know how someone else's journey went, because I know some people, they hated it, but I feel like I would love it. I don't know. I feel like I love like living in a tiny house or in a van. I don't know. Definitely a cabin. I could see it. But I'm scared of bears, and Canada's very notorious for its bears. Like, they're everywhere. So even if you're like in just North Vancouver, like if you're just barely out of Vancouver, there are bears, and there are mountain lions. So I would have to like really build a really good security gate around my cabin. It's the only way that would work. I hope you enjoyed this. Please give this video a thumbs up if I gave you a new idea of a new alternative way to live, and let me know if you try any of these. But I will see you next time for a new video. Until then, bye.